Introduction.
1.
Live. Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon in Europe. So we're gonna wait 30 seconds before we're gonna start, just to give the opportunity to everybody to get the link and join our webinar today. Okay, I will say we should start. Good morning again, good afternoon for the people that have been connecting from Europe. Welcome everybody, this is Franco. We are live from New York City. It's a beautiful day in New York today. I'm the managing partner of Gen US, a team of about, I would say, 20-ish people across the United States of America and Europe. We are spread between New York offices, Miami, Philadelphia, and West Coast. I would love to give you an introduction on our company. Basically, we are an American company. We operating across countries and across continents. So we have been doing businesses in Europe and in the US for almost 20 years. That means that we have a solid background and knowledge. We are based in New York, so you will see a couple of people from my team. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction. So we have Kamal Hakin. So Kamal is our recruitment specialist. We have Mauro Bandelli. Mauro is partner of Gen US, executive partner. And we have Milika. She is running the HR department. So as you can see from our PowerPoint, so basically today we're going to talk about people. It's always difficult hiring people. It's always a question mark. We're going to hire people locally. We're going to transfer skills from Europe to US. So we are here to give you an introduction about the procedures that you can face in United States of America. And not only, so basically we are doing business for a while in US. And basically our mission is to help entrepreneurs, executive managers, and people to be successful in United States of America. So think about that. So we have a unique opportunity based on our established networking that we are lucky that we have the opportunity to talk with entrepreneurs. Actually, we have about 10 to 15 calls per week with entrepreneurs that they wanted to run businesses across the two continents. And we have been doing that for a while, so for almost 10 years. So that means that we develop a knowledge between the two continents, and we would love to share our experiences with all of you. As I mentioned before, we want to be successful and we want to help people to be successful in the United States of America. We used to say that actually Gen US, it's one-stop search partner. And that means that we have the people that you can talk with. So if you have any question about the US market, how to access the market, how to establish a business in the United States of America, you have a partner who can give you and you can provide information for the questions that usually you have when you approach the United States of America. It's a solid market, US. I'm the executive partner of Gen US. I spent part of my career in the United States of America, so it's almost 14 years that I've been working in US. I have the double citizenship. So that means that usually you have the opportunity to work across the two continents. So that means that you need the right mindset. You need to figure out the best strategy and how you can talk with your people across the two continents and make the people successful that will help your organization to be successful in United States of America. And I'm going to share more stories during the webinar today with you to give you some of my experiences of what I face when I run Italy, for example. It's a very successful Italian marketplace with restaurants, brick and mortar stores, and even an academy to educate people about the Italian food. So we move basically almost 100 people per year from Europe to US. So we face several issues here in the US. On the other side, I have different experiences, like running a big corporation in the United States of America, actually located in the Midwest. So that means an American pure mindset. And that company made some investment conversely in Europe and got me through several things, managing different teams across the two continents and understanding really how to set properly guidelines with these people. Gen US, it's been operating for a while, as I mentioned before, in the United States of America. So we have several customers across different industries. We have food, we have fashion, we have some unique brand established in Italy, and we have been growing in the United States of America. We have been doing these webinars to help people to understand how we can support them. But I want to give you even an overview about the American economy. I'm, as probably you can feel, I'm a big fan of the United States of America. I really, if you look at the past, so for decades, basically, there were several stories about the United States of America and predict to be an economy facing some crisis, a nation that probably will fall down. Yes, correct. But if you think about it for a second, what happened in the last 30 years. So there were a very huge competition at some point during the Cold War between the United States of America and Russia. And at the end of the day, the United States of America economy was super strong. It happened when I was a kid during the 80s, across the 70s and the 80s, that there was a big dispute between the US and Japan. If you remember, the Japan economy was pushing hard, and at some point there were some stories and say, oh, United States of America, they're not going to compete with Japan. Japan will be the next marketplace. But at the end of the day, United States of America came up with a solid economy between the 80s and the 90s. It happened in 9/11, difficult situation, but at the end of the day, they complete a fantastic turnaround and the economy boom up and help several companies to be successful here in the US. It happened again during the financial crisis. And recently, we experienced the pandemic. So I'm a big fan of the United States of America economy. If you look, even the data that you can find easily online from the World Bank. So basically, it's a solid economy. The forecast, it's US will grow more than twice than the G7 countries. I'm still thinking that the United States of America, it's a unique platform. So I've been doing business for a while here, and I can tell you that you have a very good country with solid, I will say, partners to develop your business model and to scale your business model. Logistic, it's a tool that it's easy accessible in the United States of America. Honestly, they support entrepreneurs that they wanted to invest in the United States of America. I'll give you an example. So I have a story, a personal story. When we decide to open Italy in New York, that was our first store in the United States of America. So we came and we tried to talk with some people, no? And we got the chance to talk with the mayor of New York. And we said, with our PowerPoint, no? So we sit down and we said, so we have a very good idea. So we're going to open these stores in New York, and we're going to bring the Italian culture in the United States of America. We're going to bring food, we're going to bring product, we're going to bring small producers based in Italy, and we're going to give them the opportunity to sell their products in the United States of America. And the mayor immediately got the point, asked the governor to join the meeting, and asked some politicians to join the meeting and say, guys, we need to support these people. So these people, they want to make an investment in our city. So whatever it takes, we're going to support them. And we were very, very successful in New York. Why United States of America is strong? So you have to consider a couple of things that usually we share with our partners. So it's a country that is based on the economic model. So that means that they have a very strong domestic consumption, and they sustain the investment, as I mentioned before. You can find online some data, but basically you can see what happened right after the pandemic. So there was this, how they call in the US, it's called hockey stick, like the stick that you use to play hockey. So basically, it's a very flexible economy. Yes, they fell down, but immediately during the 12 months after the lockdown, they immediately faced the hockey stick. So they went up. It's an economy very flexible. So you can face some crisis, but at the end, you can recover pretty fast. And that's a unique opportunity. Second, it's an economy that has been investing a lot in infrastructure. So every single president of the United States of America push solid, strong plan to make the country a better place for people that they need to move products and they need to operate in the country. We have, I mean, I'm European, so we have to consider that it's a big country. So we're talking about a lot of states, and sometimes the two costs are very different, especially from a domestic consumption standpoint, but they operate in the same way. So they're going to push the economy as much as they can. When they talk from a federal level, they support entrepreneurs, and they wanted to see the country being successful. It's a large market. We talk about million people in US, but they have a solid media presence. So that means that you have, and we have opportunity to create a pretty solid marketing plan in the United States of America. Technology is booming. So technology is giving the opportunity to everyone to stay focused on the target of your company, and you can make some campaigns very successful based on the target of your company and where you have been operating in United States of America. Yes, it's a competitive country for sure, but that's the reason why we are here to help organizations to be successful. So what, let me say what Gen US has been providing for a while to organization. So basically, first of all, we are an advisor company. So that means that we have a know-how, and we can provide to organization market analysis, feasibility studies. We can really spend our time to be focused on what really matters for your organization when you're going to support your products in United States of America. I have another personal story that I can share. I was one of the customers of Gen US. So it happened in my previous work experience that I was in charge of this unique extra virgin olive oil company based in Cremona in Italy. I was in US, and actually our plan was to grow the brand in United States of America. So my first point of contact with Gen US at that time was, okay, I'm the general manager of the American branch. I really need to keep my focus on my product, and I really need to keep my focus on developing my brand and my sales structure and sales partnership. So I asked Jen to provide me some market analysis about the market in United States of America. But not only, I asked Jen to establish my corporation in US, so the legal entity, how to manage the legal entity in a state like New York. And for sure, when you have to bring products from Europe to US, you need a warehouse. So I asked Jen to provide a partner, trustable partner for importing my product in United States of America, be in compliance with the product in US. And in the meantime, I need people. And when you need people, you need to talk to somebody who can help you to understand. And that's the reason why we have been talking today. If based on your strategy, it's better to bring people from your country, from Europe to US, or hire locally people. And at the time, we decided a kind of a mixed model, no? The mixed model was, okay, let's hire somebody locally and put him in charge of the sales in United States of America, because we need to grow the brand at the time, and we need to make sales happen. And you need somebody who can take the products and making shows, introduction, business meetings, so somebody based in the US. And we decided to hire somebody in the US. But in the meantime, supporting the marketing strategy, the brand strategy, and the management in the US. So we decided to move some people from Italy to US. So we found a way to figure out the best visas strategy, applying for the visa, getting some advice from Gen US about the months, how many months we can keep the people in the US, if will have been much better to have some professional skills visa in the US or other kind of visa. And later I'm going to toss the microphone to the HR department, and they're going to give you an overview about that. And at the end of the day, the last service that we asked to provide was tax advice. Tax advice usually means for companies in Europe operating in the US, especially if they sell product in the US, to set up the first commercial agreement between the two entities. So usually you have a parent company in Europe, a subsidiary in the US, and you need to set up properly the commercial agreement between the two companies. Plus, when you're going to start selling product in the US, every single state is different. So that means that you need to set up the sales tax in United States of America, completely different, state by state and product by product. I remember when we set the Italian marketplace that I mentioned before, Italy, so from a pure food standpoint, we got to sell a lot of products, almost 2,000 different products coming from Europe, from Italy, from small producers. And we face a lot of issues about these products completely different. I give you an example. Chocolate, it's taxed different across several states in the United States of America. So the same product, the same SKU, completely different sales tax across some states. And you need a partner who can help you to advise your CFO, your financial department, to set properly these rules in US. So we do this kind of services. And the last one that we have been helping corporate C-level executives even to do some due diligence in US. So probably you heard about it, but nothing is public in US unless you are listed at the stock exchange. So that means that you need a partner who can help you to dig into some details if you are looking for acquiring some companies in US, and you need a network. You need people that they can make the right question to these people and find a way to have a win-win partnership. So as I mentioned before, it's an open country. It's a country that usually they put business on top. So they wanted to do business with you, but you need a network and you can manage properly these kind of activities. Speaking about HR, we do scouting. So we have been helping companies with headhunting activities. When you have a network, so you can find trustable people in the country, and usually the unique selling point is understanding really what kind of role the company needs in the country, so in this country, and helping to figure out the person that will fit that role. It happened even that we have companies with temporary management. That's more from a strategic standpoint. So from a strategic standpoint, we can do integration, especially if you have big projects and you want to integrate some project in the country, some people in the country, or teams. So we can do post-merger integration, project management, and figuring out if you wanted to move the production from Europe to US, figuring out the right way even to create and to find a site to set up your operation in United States of America. What else? Approaching the market. That's something very interesting from my standpoint. I really understand the entrepreneur view. So that means that the United States of America, usually from an entrepreneur standpoint, it's a big market. And usually you think United States of America and you say, okay, I'm going to bring my products to US, or I'm going to bring my service to US, and I will be successful due to the fact that I'm successful in Europe. It's not always true. So when you approach United States of America, you really need to spend time on your strategy. So planning properly the strategy and focus on the goals that you want to reach. What I mean by that, it's a different continent, as we mentioned before, competitive for sure. And usually the way of working in the United States of America is not the same way of working in Europe. So you need to understand that the mindset of the people of your team that you're going to hire in US will be probably completely different in the US. So basically that, I'm a big fan of looking to long-range plan. So that means the success in the United States of America is not going to happen in 3 days. That's not the reality. You need to plan. You need to stay focused on your goal. You need to figure out the best way to create what I usually call your operating system of the company. In the operating system of the company, you have even your mindset and the way that you manage your people in US, but you need to make investment. And usually we suggest a long-range plan between 3 to 5 years. It's not going to happen in 3 months. Think about the visas, for example. We can support companies to get the visas, but usually it's a time that we cannot forecast properly because it's an application. And even the two governments, they are pushing hard to create more visas opportunity because the economy, it's asking more workers in the United States of America. So the average people in US, basically they have at least one job. And most of them, they have 2 jobs, no? So it's an economy that it's asking for people coming from other countries, but every single visa, it's different, no? And you need to forecast that usually is going to take you in a process that is going to be between 6 months to 10 months. So even from a people standpoint, you really need to think about your long-range plan and the culture that you want to establish in United States of America. What else? Presence in the US. We usually help people even to, stay focused on the baseline and the result that they wanna to achieve in this country. We don't do sales, so we don't have executive representative or sales representatives, but we can help people to understand the model that usually is in place in the United States of America. I'll give you another example. I was, as I mentioned before, on the other side, and being an executive entrepreneur and making business in US, I hire locally my sales representative, but the sales representative doesn't understand immediately the distribution in United States of America. Distribution model in US, it's a very solid model, but distributors in the US, they don't care usually about your brands. So I used to say that they move products. So basically, they make operation happen between the warehouses and between warehouses and retail stores or B2B or whatever. Even online. Even online, big partners like Walmart, Amazon, Target. So basically, they move products, but they don't represent your brand, but they have a solid distributor's business model. And we have the skills to help people to stay focused on the sales strategy, the way that you sell your product, but we're going to help you to understand the distribution strategy that is in place in the US. And the distribution strategy sometimes is gonna hit your final margin because they have several deductions in the US. They used to call deductions. So that means commissions and costs that you have on top when you're gonna represent your product in United States of America. And we used to say that we have some knowledge to help you to reach your strategic stability of the business. So give you the opportunity to be on top on what is happening across distribution. Speaking about people, I want to share a couple of personal experience, honestly. It's difficult to manage people in US, especially they have different mindset. First of all, they are very focused on goals. You need to have a strategy in place when you're going to hire locally, especially if you are representing European products in the US. So you need somebody who can understand your products first, who can understand the culture. Europe, it's very different continent. Every single country has some uniques. If you compare food in Italy with food in France or Spain, some products, solid industries in Germany. So you need somebody who can understand the European mindset, and it's not easy, especially if they have been working for a while in the US. So you need to create this kind of bridges, and I used to call, between the two mindset. The other point that it's not easy, but it's an opportunity when you transfer people from Europe to US. So it happened to me. I got to transfer almost 100 people per year, and there were at the time a kind of successful rate. So we used to say, I'm going to transfer 100 people from Europe to US, and at least 10% will stay. Why it happened that, first of all, when you move people from Europe to US, so they have to figure out the personal life, no? And it's not easy. It's a different lifestyle, but you have the opportunity to transfer people that they have solid skill set, and they can immediately scale your plan in United States of America. And usually we say that most of the companies, they're gonna try to transfer top management, people at the C-level, or people that they have a very solid background across the IT or technical or whatever. You need a visa, and we're gonna talk later. And sometimes in the entrepreneur mindset, there is a cost reduction, but it's not always true, honestly. Especially it's based on the agreement that you have in place in the European country, and will face some cost when you're gonna move people from Europe to US. I mentioned briefly the work culture. It's a different mindset. Work and the job in US, it's a very status quo. So that means it's a social identification. And that's a strong statement, but it's the reality. I've been managing people in the US for a while. They have a solid productivity rate on the working days, so they are very focused on make things happen. You need to have even a mindset about what is happening across the country. That means equal opportunity, no discrimination. So I was saying to my team a couple of days ago, it happened to me a story that at some point I was working on this real estate project, and an associate complained about a name that was in a PowerPoint in this real estate project. So we used to call this real estate project master plan, and the associate complained and say, "Master, I'm not feeling inclusive with this word master." And they complain, and they send me a claim, first of all with the HR department, second, a letter from an attorney based in the US, and say that it was representing the associate, and the associate felt not inclusive in the company based on the word master plan. And actually, the court forced me to change the word in comprehensive plan. So these are skills that you need to consider in United States of America. It's a very open country, and you need to make people feel inclusive all over your departments. It's a country that you can really have some guidelines and guardrail. We usually help companies to set what is called in United States of America the handbook of the company. The handbook, it's a book that you have to deliver to the worker and to the associate, and it's gonna give you the guidelines of the company. I mention always that meetings are different. First of all, you gotta be on time. And second, they are short. Usually you have an agenda and you have to stay focused on what matters during the meetings. Loyalty, it's difficult in US, so you need to act quickly. If you find somebody locally and you like the person, you need to make us an offer as soon as possible. Marketplace, it's open. People usually, when they talk with a company, they have other conversation going on. So if you don't make an offer, I will say in the next 24 hours, so probably you're gonna lose the opportunity to hire that person. And loyalty, it's very difficult to find people that they're gonna stay for a long journey with your company unless you have a very solid corporate culture. And I have another story, and I'm gonna toss the microphone to Kamal. It happened to me when I opened the store in New York, so we were very successful. Fine, okay, boom. We decided to open Boston. And when we went to Boston Marketplace, for us, were very difficult to hire people in Boston. Most of the people in Boston were asking, okay, thanks during the interview. I understand my job. I understand the role. I understand your handbook, but you don't have a company culture book. So it opened our mind that in that kind of area where there are the most successful university in the United States of America, there were some people looking for more for a culture, company profile, and less of the handbook. So they were more important to communicate with them about the culture of the company on top and the long range plan for these people if they join the company, and less speaking and talking about the tasks, the role, and the responsibility. Kamal, I talk a lot, so up to you. Next slides.
Thank you, Franco, and thank you to everybody who's joining us today from Europe and also from the US. My name is Kamal, and I work as a recruitment specialist at GenUSA. As you can probably hear from my accent, I'm American. I'm from Texas, but I've had the opportunity over my career to live, work, and study in US, Spain, also in Italy, where I'm based in now. And so I would like to share with you some of the best practices that we've come across when it comes to finding the right people for your company in the US, specifically for a branch or subsidiary from a European company, but in the US. So first and foremost, before we go into the different steps, I would like to mention and highlight the fact that it's really, really important to have an effective recruitment process, meaning that the process never ends. It's like a circle, just like in the image right there. You're always on the search for people. You're always trying to expand your network and trying to find the right person, because as Franco mentioned just before, in the United States, there's a high turnover. So just as you are trying to find people, people are also trying to find other places to work. So you have to think one step forward. It's never ending. Please, Franco, next slide. Okay, so briefly, what I'd like to do is go through the selection process. I've got maybe 20 steps, and then I'll go in more detail on the ones that I find the most important. So when you choose to work with us, the first thing that we do usually is we like to talk with you to understand your goals and what you're looking for. After this has kind of been established from your end and our end, we like to create an exclusive mandate where we tell you what our success rate is, what we can do for you. You give us a time frame of when you're looking to hire the person, and we say, okay, for these next X number of months, you work with us, we work with you only to find this position. And from there, we define the job description. This is something that's overlooked quite a bit, because when a company comes to us and they say we want a sales representative or a marketing manager or whatever the job title is, they come to us with the idea that they already know who they're looking for, and they assume that because they have this title that everybody knows what is a marketing manager, to give you an example, or a sales director. When in reality, it's always very specific to the excuse me, the industry, to where you are located. So what I like to do is talk about the different skills that are necessary for the position. Also, which part of the United States you're looking for, because each state and each city, even each individual part of a city, might attract a different kind or different quality of candidate. So we need to be very, very specific on that. Also on seniority. Sometimes we receive some mandates from clients where they say, you know, we want someone junior, when in reality, they don't want someone junior. They want someone super senior, but they don't want to pay someone super senior. So these are the conversations that we have to have in the beginning to set expectations so that we're successful. Because if we can tell you that we can find someone, we don't want after 3 or 4 months goes by to say, you know what, actually, this junior person that you're looking for at this salary range just doesn't exist. So we have to be very, very clear from the beginning. Another thing is sector of origin. So many times it can happen that the company or client is looking for a sales director for a specific niche, let's say printer, they make printers. Okay, we find them a number of candidates, but then it turns out that the exact kind of skills that are necessary only comes from people who have previous experience in that specific industry. But on the other hand, sometimes it happens that the skills that are required to be successful as a sales director are transferable. So it doesn't matter that you're looking exactly in that industry. So these are all the conversations we have from the beginning. Next is we like to provide an analysis of the competitive market in which you would like to enter the United States. So we use our different resources that we have, that we've built up and we have access to be able to provide to you based on the skills, based on what you're looking for, to say, okay, we can help you find this person. This is the projected salary range. In addition to the salary compensation, there could be different bonus plans, which we need to talk about, different things with health insurance, because as my colleague Malika will mention to you later on, it differs entirely from Europe. So I won't touch on it that much, just to be as a precursor that these are different things that we need to look at. Oh, sorry, Franco, can you go back to, no, back one. Yes. Definition of budget and salary. And then we need your help as our client to provide us with a list of competitors so that we can better understand your company. Sometimes it helps that we do the research on your certain competitors to understand your company better so that we can find people for you. Once we have all of this, myself and my team, we go through all of our resources that we have to find a selection of candidates. These candidates are first and foremost interviewed and researched by us. So we do the interviews with them. We screen out the people that we think are best to present to you. Now, Franco, please proceed to the next slide. We engage with them. We have an interview. And one thing I wanted to mention is that if you're looking to hire someone in America, as a European company, as a European brand, it's more likely than not that your brand is not as well established in the US as a competitive company, which is American. So it really helps to have a recruiter or a recruitment team who are American, who sound American, who can speak in the manner of an American, because it provides some credibility to your company. Because I think Franco mentioned this before, it's very much a two-way street in America. Here, where I am in Italy and other places in Europe, what I've noticed is that when people go into an interview, it's usually the mindset of the company is that, okay, this person wants to work for us, so we are interviewing them, and we don't expect them to ask follow-up questions as in depth. Whereas in the United States, the company has to go into the mindset of thinking they have to prove themselves to the candidate just as much as the candidate has to prove themselves to the employer. So this is just one point I wanted to mention. Once the second screening takes place with the client, then we go on to third, fourth screenings. We do the reference checks. We help you to create the job offer. Usually the job offer, it's a non-binding agreement. It's 1-2 pages. describes all of the details of the role, what's the benefits package, the compensation, so on and so forth. And once this is signed, then it moves on to the next step with HR, where you can do an at-will contract, and then you place them in the company, usually within 2 weeks, because in America, most of the time, there is no regulation on when someone can quit or someone can get fired, but usually it's 2 weeks, 14, 15 days. Training, so on and so forth. And if it gets to it, when it's time to let someone go, we are also available to help in the firing process to ensure that every legal aspect is taken care of, so that the employee doesn't come back and sue you, or you don't get into any legal situations. Please, Franco, next slide. Okay, I talked a lot about this prior, but the one point I wanted to mention on this slide is the importance of employer branding. Imagine a company in Europe going to the US, trying to sell themselves as a sustainable company. They're going to be there for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years, going up against an already established company with a US CEO, with an American CEO, owners, so on and so forth. So branding your company as one that is stable, that has credibility in Europe, because most of our clients, 99.9% of them, are very successful in Europe. They've been around for decades, and they have this reputation that we need to be able to showcase to these American potential candidates that we want to hire for your companies. Please, Franco, next slide. Okay. One other thing about recruitment. We don't ever post on job boards, social media posts. I would say that's the very last thing that we do. We have a large network that we tap into. We have three different back-end sources that we can go in and see different resumes. We contact people. We're able to pull out email addresses from people that fit the certain requirements, even if they're not looking for a job, because usually what we found is that, you know, you're paying us for a service that you cannot do very easily, simply on your own, whereas anybody can post a job online. The service that we provide is to be able to find someone who's capable, who's good enough for your company, and who can represent you in the future. And so we dig deep and spend the hours that it takes to find the people for you, to screen them, to make sure that they're capable before we send them off to you. Franco, please, next slide. As mentioned before, with interview techniques, it goes both ways. It's 50-50. So usually in the first interview, I'm present along with someone from my team when we're talking to the candidate. Once they pass our interview, then we move on to have an interview with someone from your team, with myself being as a moderator. And then the third and fourth interviews, if it needs to happen, we also lend a hand in that sense. One last thing I wanted to mention before I pass it on to my colleague Malika is that, my colleague Mauro will talk about some visas, but it's a continuous process. It's never ending. The worst case scenario is that after 2 or 3 months of searching for someone, we hire someone for you, they stay on board for a few months, maybe 6 months to a year, and then it doesn't work out on your end or even on their end, then you have to go back to square one. So what I will say is that we keep track of everybody that we've contacted. We have Excel spreadsheets for every single job that we've ever worked on that we can tap into in the future. God forbid that it is needed. This is not something that you do one time and it's finished. Hopefully it is, but you always have to have a plan B. So thank you all for your time. Now I pass over to Mauro to talk about visas.
Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you, Kamal. And I'm Mauro Bandelli, a partner of Gen company. I'm based in Italy at this moment. I will take only few minutes to talk about this topic. Also because we need to talk in details about each specific case. Also because I want that my colleague Malika will talk extensively regarding the HR management. Okay. But sometimes we know that the companies to start a business or to run a business in the US, they need to move employees in the US. Sorry. To move people in the US, there are 3 or 4 visas available. There is the E1, E2, L1A, L1B, and H1B. Okay, there is another one that is a B1 that allows to employees to travel in the US and to stay in the US more than 20 up to 180 days for each entry. And to start a business, they use this business they can use this visa to start a business, to search partners, and also is very good to for technician to install new plants and train people. But be careful because it doesn't allow people with B1 to work in the US, and it doesn't allow for these people to receive money and salary from a US company. So you don't, with this visa, it's not possible to get an SSN number, a social security number. So you cannot be resident in the US. To move people from from Europe to US, there is the L1A and L1B. The A is for manager, and the B for specific skilled people. Of course, these people has to already work in the company from 1 year at least, and do the same business, do the same job for 1 year in outside of the US. To get this visa is not easy because the timing usually is among 3 to 6 months, depending on the documentation needed to provide to the embassy to ask for the visa, and also depends on when you can get the date of the interview to talk with the embassy. Also, there are 2 or more visas. One is the E1 and one is the E2. The difference, they are very similar, but the difference is that the E2 is for treaty investors. So to move people in the US when the company in the US is quite new. So to move these people in the US, it is needed an investment in the US. The law doesn't say which the amount of investment, but it has to be substantial. And also the E1 is a visa that allows to hire people from the Europe to US for companies that in the US are already up and running, that has already other employees and that has already turnover. So is it possible to ask for a visa? In this case, the timing is usually around 2-3 months at least. The last visa is the H1B. That is a visa that with this visa, the American companies that can hire foreign skilled people. The problem is that the law in the US allows only 60,000 people per year to get this visa. So it's not very easy to get this visa because usually the H1B visa are done, are issued to companies as Google, Tesla, this kind of tech company. There are a lot of information that I can provide about the visa. The process of the visa is never easy. It takes time, and the requirements are very strong. So what I can suggest is to be very careful when you ask a visa, because usually who is going to interview you in the US, the attitude is believed that you are a potential illegal immigrant. So the documentation and the requirements has to be very, very solid. And usually the timing is not short. Usually it's 3 to 6 months at least. So if you need more information, please just get in touch with us. We will provide free consultation about that. If there are the possibility to ask for a visa, we will do that, but only after seeing if there are enough requirement. Milika, it's your turn.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauro. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Milika. I manage HR for Gen USA and also for our clients. So one of the preliminary activities that we need to consider that go hand in hand with my colleague Kamal and what my colleague Kamal anticipated during the recruiting process is making a decision on what type of candidate and role we are looking to hire. So there are two main different roles that we are looking at. So for example, if we want to hire an independent contractor, we are looking at a person that's going to be paid on a project basis. So usually these kind of contracts are temporary between the employer and the independent contractor. The person is using their own materials. It's not given materials from the employer. Generally does not work only for one company, works for multiple companies at the same time. As I mentioned, it is a temporary relationship as it's held by a certain project. So for if the project is set up to last for 6 months, that's how long our independent contractor is going to work for the business. And also the contractor is the one leading on how they're going to be the one executing the work. Obviously, the company is going to give them guidelines, but at the end of the day, they're going to be managing their day-to-day work. And at the end of the, for example, as I mentioned, 6 months project, they're going to present the project to the business. If instead we are looking on hiring an employee, can you go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. We can either hire someone that can be a salary employee or a paid hourly employee. It depends a lot on the role we're looking to fulfill. So if you're looking for executive, like Kamal earlier mentioned, sales directors, we're obviously looking for a salary employee. If instead we are looking for an admin work person, then we can look into hourly as well. In this case, opposite of independent contractor, the employee will use the materials provided by the business and by the employer. Generally works for one employer, but as Frank anticipated, in the US, it's common for even an employee to have multiple jobs at the same time. The relationship between an employee and the business is a continuing relation that's regulated by the contract that Kamal touched base briefly earlier. And in this case, opposite of an independent contractor, the employer is the one that determines how the work should be executed by the employee. We can go to, yeah, thank you. So something that it's not common in Europe, it's the benefits, which is something that's extremely important in the US when we're hiring especially if we're hiring higher role people, such as sales directors, vice presidents, and so on. One of the first benefits that is recommended to for the businesses that are starting in the US to offer to the candidates is the health insurance. Health insurance, it's private in the US and it's quite expensive. So if the business that's hiring is willing to offer that as a benefit to the candidate, it definitely sends a message that the business is serious and they are not only considering what the candidate can bring as a skill set, but also they want to help them in their personal life by supporting their health. The second benefit that's pretty important as well will be a retirement plan, which is commonly known as a 401k or as an IRA, depending if it's pre-tax or post-tax. Retirement as well. It's not very common in the US. There is a small government-provided retirement, but majority of employees that work here do have a personal retirement on the side, where both the employee and the employer contribute in a certain percentage. So to take the 401k as an example, what the company does is it offers the opportunity for the employee to contribute towards the 401k, the retirement plan, but also they contribute in a certain percentage that usually varies between 3 to 6%. And that sends a very strong signal and a very positive one to the candidate, showing that the employer is providing this benefit as well, along with the health insurance. And one last one, not last for importance, will be those that are known commonly as work-life balance benefits that became, I think, quite strong after the pandemic. And there's a various range of benefits that the company can come up to offer to the candidates. Some common ones, for example, are discounts for gym memberships, for yoga classes, and whatever other health-related class or subscription the candidate would like to have. Some companies introduce the concept of summer Fridays, and some of them, for example, let the employees leave half of the day during the summertime, so they have time to enjoy with their families or do whatever other activity they enjoy during their free time. Once we have established what kind of benefits we want to offer, and Kamal has helped recruit the correct candidate for the business, we are in the onboarding process. So we have to present to the candidate an offer letter, which is summarize the base salary, the vacation time that the employee is going to have, the benefits that we just discussed. Once the offer letter is accepted by the candidate, that's when we are gonna fill out an actual contract between the employee and the business, which is gonna be binding between the two. Once we have these two documents, in that moment when the HR, from a standpoint, starts playing a more active role. We're gonna need an I-9 form, which is a form required by the federal government that is showing us that the employee is actually eligible to work in the US. Then from a tax standpoint, we're going to need a W-4 form, which is as well a federal requirement. It's going to tell us how the employee is going to want their tax withheld from federal purposes. We're going to need the state withholding form as well, which is different for every single state where the candidate is going to be residing. That's also going to tell how the candidate wants the tax to be managed. And then if there is any other form that we need to provide to the candidate and retrieve from the employee in order to be compliant with any additional laws that are within the state where they reside and work. Once we have all the documentation and we have our employee, we need to have a payroll service that's going to help us pay the employee on a monthly basis, but it is also going to help us deposit whatever withholding of taxes we are retrieving from the employee. Right now, we utilize ADP, which is one of the leading payroll services in the US. So once we have the service, we do the initial setup on the portal. They're going to ask different information regarding the business. They're going to require the tax ID of the business, the articles of incorporation, And then they're gonna ask for the bank account in order to be able to process the payroll, and obviously all the documentation that we previously collected from our employee. In addition to that, they're going to be able to provide certain quotes for mandatory insurances that are present in the US. How much insurance that's present in the entire country, doesn't matter the state, is the worker compensation insurance. It can be translated as an insurance that covers in case something happens to the employee during the duty of work. And then there might be other insurances that may be mandatory by a specific state. For example, in New York, we had paid family leave that's also mandatory. So if we have an employee that's in New York, we're going to need both the worker compensation insurance and the paid family leave as well. Once we register the employee in the system, we're going to add obviously their salary, their PTO, which is their paid time off, which is usually divided between vacation time and sick time, which is also mandated by the single state, and any other benefit that we previously discussed with them. We're going to manage through the system the allowances that were given to the employee. For example, reimbursement for their use of their personal cell phone or their personal car, or they're working from home for their Wi-Fi. And we also going to reimburse their expenses throughout the system with the payroll service we're currently using. And then there is always a communication and support to the employee and to the company, and as well between the employee and the company, making sure that everything is going smoothly in case the employer has questions, or in case the employee has questions in regards to any aspect of the tax portion, or the pay period, or the pay schedule. And obviously there's a supervision of the adherence to any tax regulation or any other compliance regulations that are arising throughout the year, because as we know, as I mentioned earlier, every single state works in a different way, and there are some regulations that are federal binding, so they apply to any state regardless, but there's some other that are state specific, and we need to make sure that whenever the employees and the company are, we need to be abiding to those regulations as well. I think that covers a majority of the HR management.
Thank you, Milica. I will say that the last point that you mentioned, it's very important in the US. So being compliant with the local regulation and rules, it's very important here. So HR department and the people that have been supporting HR, it's mandatory that they have to provide answers to your associate. So it's almost a one-to-one conversation. So that means that you need somebody who can provide answers to every single culture working and operating in United States of America. Okay. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for your attention. So appreciate that you took time to join our webinar today. If you have any kind of question, please reach out the organization. You have our contact details. I will make a final closure for this webinar and say, we mentioned before that we define Gen US kind of one-stop search company. So that means that we usually are being involved in every single step. And when we talk about people, we can sit down, we can talk about the strategy on top of the company, we can set some goals, fit the culture of the organization, and helping people to understand the way of working, defining guidelines and guardrails and the strategy on top between hiring local people or applying for visas that Mauro mentioned, and execute the plan. Because at the end of the day, we are in the US and we can help you to execute the plan. Thank you, everybody. Such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.